name's Dave Alton. I'm a volunteer here at the National Coal Mining Museum. My specific role, if I've got one, is that of being the resident poet. How all that came about was by sheer chance. Having lived for 40 odd years on Tyneside, we'd only just recently moved into the area. And my wife had actually come to the museum with our granddaughter, who was very young at the time, just for an afternoon out. I wasn't even here. And while they were here, one of the museum staff was putting up an exhibition about the Bevan Boys. And my granddaughter, who was about 3 at the time, with all the energy of a 3-year-old, went up to the person who was putting up this exhibition and said, "My great-granddad was a Bevan Boy." And that led to a conversation about my dad being a Bevan Boy. And she asked if she could have a copy of the poem for the exhibition, which I duly supplied. And from that led to a poetry workshop in the museum, and that led me to setting up a group called the Coal Shed Poets, which was a group of us who from time to time, we met on a regular basis, about once a month, but from time to time we moved around the museum reading poetry, writing poetry, involving people coming to the museum. One of the exercises I did on a few occasions was to stand outside the lamp room with a flip chart and getting people who were going to do the underground tour before they went down to give their thoughts about what they thought they were going to experience and how they felt about going underground. I then waylaid them again as they emerged from their tour and asked them what they then thought of it. I got them just to write a short phrase or sentence or even just a word on each occasion, and I would turn that into a poem which then went on to the museum's website. One of the roles that I do fulfil here is that of writing and reading a poem at the annual memorial event held in the Memorial Garden, when glass cheques of memory are placed into the memorial frame. I was here for the very first one simply because I got one of those glass cheques for my own father, who had been a Bevan Boy during the war, 1944 to 47. And I wrote a poem to mark that event. And so successful was that poem that I was subsequently asked to write a poem for every event afterwards. And I've continued to do so with the very latest event just a week ago, when I read a poem to mark what is now the 90th anniversary of the Goba pit disaster. Until I became a volunteer at the Mining Museum, I hadn't actually been involved in volunteering anywhere else. And as I indicated earlier, my connection with the Mining Museum was tenuous, to say the least, to begin with. I continue to volunteer here because it gives a purpose to my poetry. I've been a poet since the 1970s in many different contexts, but this has been the most focused and purposeful of the poetry that I've written, and hopefully I will be able to continue to do so in the future. It's also given me the opportunity to work with people who were either writers or poets in themselves, or just the general public who perhaps never even had a thought of writing a poem, but given them an opportunity to express their ideas about what they feel about mining for themselves or mining as a heritage from which they have grown. The Coal Shed Poets, unfortunately, fell a bit of a victim to COVID, as so many things did. I managed to keep it going a little bit during COVID from a distance, as we all did in those days. But out of that grew Voices in the Coal Shed, which now involves a number of volunteers within the museum, writing articles, not just poetry, but in many different forms. So if you have aspirations to be a writer or just want to express yourselves, perhaps Voices in the Coal Shed would be for you. In which case, come along, have a chat to the volunteer staff and see what you can contribute. As a volunteer and resident poet at the Mining Museum, I have obviously written poems on many occasions, and this is one I have written specifically to mark and hopefully encourage volunteers in the future. And it's called The Ballad of the Volunteers. What's the weight of a single hour? On which scale is there a clear reckoning of life in the balance? Examine a volunteer to find the worth of time given by choice and a measurement of wealth of possibilities. For one, it's an incident recounted down the family. The day great-grandad almost died in a near calamity, whose details were almost lost. Or pitmatic words from Durham, recorded and transcribed, hence passed forward to generations and so rescued from silence. Kent to Cumbria, willing hands chronicle and contribute. Community recollections, such a valuable pursuit of customs and commonplaces, history might well devour if left untended, while the young at their studies have power through learning to transform the past into the foundation course of their future. Fuel for writer collectives, a deep resource from which to hew verse and story, hurry ideas into the light. Such lives are well worth their living, talents freely given flight. From moment to moment, time must continue to disappear, while the worth of each is preserved by the ready volunteer.